When I was 19, I was on a bicycle and I was hit by a car. I was paralyzed from the waist down, but I had a condition called anomia, where I was unable to form words. When you cannot speak, you find yourself inevitably alone. A lot of things happened to my brain. I had in English what's called a traumatic brain injury, TBI, and we didn't know it at the time. So it took a while to discover. My brain was doing all of the thinking and I felt that I was normal until someone put a mirror in front of me and I realized my thoughts were only in my mind. It's a difficult condition to fix, and at that time a doctor had tried many things but had said to me, you should try music therapy. To be quite honest, although I played the piano when I was a kid, my mother gave me a guitar because I could not sit at the piano at that time. The fractures were so bad I couldn't sit in this position. So I was laying in a bed, in a hospital bed, and she gave me the guitar and I learned to play like this, and then consequently I learned to speak. So each note had a letter, and one note like a was M, and then oh, they, and so syllables, like a baby. Je pense qu'en français tu dis like a baby, il guêpe un peu parce qu'il fait maman. Ben, j'étais pareil, vraiment, mais à 19 ans. C'est ça qui est dingue. So, j'ai réappris tous les syllabes, tout le vowel, tout ce qui vient avec, à côté d'une guitare, qui fait que, naturellement, mes premières pensées, ils ont sorti dans la musique. C'est comme ça que j'étais née comme musicienne, après un accident comme ça. Just after my accident, the first song that I wrote was a surprise. It was a thought that wound up being music, and it was called Some Lessons. And in one of the lines it says, I remember the sound of the pavement, world turned upside down, city streets unlined and empty, not a soul around. And it's crazy because even thinking about it, I nearly cry. The guttural scream that you feel when you're lost in a moment like that, it's carnal. It's deep roots of Africa in a way. You know, the deepest rooted tree in the world. That first song expressed that feeling and gave me a chance to get through that feeling as well. You know, because sometimes I think just talking about what we're going through helps us, you know. That's why we call our friends when we're having a hard time. We need someone to listen. And for whatever reason, for me, music does that. It's that friend who will always listen. When you cannot speak, you find yourself inevitably alone. There's a beautiful film by Julian Schnabel called The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. And there's a moment where the man is thinking and we hear him in monologue, but we don't see him speak. And I relate to that very much because that's what that was. And all my thoughts were within myself. It was like a well, you know. And so when I finally could express something, the first place that I found was an instrument. And it allowed me to speak things that I felt, things that I thought, things that I was going through, really deep thoughts, and metaphorically, which is even better because you don't have to explain. It's not as if that thing is going to ask you a question. You can pour everything that you feel into an instrument and it will accept it. The judgment is of the people, not the machine, you know, not the instrument itself. So music gave me a chance to explain myself in a way. I didn't know that it would fall upon the ears of people who also appreciated those feelings. That was the biggest surprise of all. And even now, being a musician is one thing, but being a songwriter is, I think, that fundamental root that comes from that moment where when I feel something really deep, the loss of a friend, a rupture, a pain, a joy, the first place that I go is here. And I take those feelings and I pour them out. And then the reality is that, like, what I feel, other people feel too. Everybody has a story. What I'm experiencing, someone else is going to experience or has already experienced. And so we reunite in a kind of a communion around music with those songs and those feelings, and we feel less alone. So in terms of mental health, what I think music, not only mine, but in general as a whole, does for people is it gives us a chance to feel simultaneously less alone. I think the healthiest thing is to give yourself permission to feel what you feel, recognize what you feel, accept that you feel that way, and then find a way to fight against that feeling to experience the joy that's around the corner. It's not easy. I think some of us need 2 days, and some of us need 2 months, and some of us need 2 years.